Good evening, class. I want to take this opportunity once again to thank the Supreme Artisan for giving us yet another opportunity to study the Torah and always to acquire new knowledge. So I give thanks to him, and I believe with complete faith that the Creator, blessed be he, is the director of all creation. So I'm saying to you, come, let's study the Midrash. Come, let's study the Sefer Hasidim. Come, let's study the book of Joshua. Joshua 10 verse 13, it says, and this information, is it not written in the book of Joshua? Meaning to say there are other books outside the Bible that the Bible gives pointers to say there's a book of Joshua, there's a book of God, there's a book of prophet God. So come, let's visit these books and study and see what is written in them. So our topic today, we are going to be using the Torah lenses, the Midrashic lenses, the Sefer Hasidic lenses, the Oral Torah. And our topic is cooking a kid or a young goat in its mother's milk. Deuteronomy chapter 14 verse 21. And I've reiterated in the other previous presentations where I was saying the Bible was written in form of idioms, was written in form of codes. So we're just decoding. Was written in idioms. What is an idiom? An idiom or idioms are a group of words established by usage as having a meaning not deducible from those the individual words. For example, it rained cats and dogs. It's an idiom. But or I see red. You see, to be made with anger. You see, so those are idioms. So the Bible is idiomatic. I mean to say it was written in codes. It was written in idioms, like that other presentation we were talking about the Torah codes. So we want to decipher using these Torah lenses, these books, to understand what is behind this statement, cooking a young goat in his mother's milk. So before I delve deeper with these studies, I just want to reiterate that we have a tendency of having old habits, and those old habits are very difficult to throw away, to lose. And they impede, there's some kind of a barricade to knowledge. You can't receive new knowledge. That's why Jesus said, it's difficult for one to buy new wine and put that new wine in old wine skin. Kutenga wine chokuda mambodo sharo azviti all. To buy a new suit and tear a patch from a new suit kokisa pa trouser sharo. It's difficult. What do we say? I'm saying it's very, very difficult for us to absorb new knowledge when we have preconceived notions. And narrow-minded beliefs are hard to surrender. Very, very hard to surrender, to absorb new knowledge. It's easier to accept things as they are. No matter how much pain they cause us. This is also not going to get. So, and it's difficult for us to transform when we're coming from that ontological viewpoint where we are using all the habits that have been absorbed through time. And yet, colleagues, the truth is that for one to grasp this new knowledge, this true reality, we must leave our old ideas. We must leave our old opinions, old belief systems, so that we may be, objective and unbiased when evaluating hidden knowledge and its origins. So, and the Kabbalah, which is the book I love most, talks about belief being dangerous. Because why is it dangerous? Because sometimes it is unreliable. And results, as a scholar, results should be our only yardstick for determining what we know is to be true. Like my rabbi and philosopher from France called Volatile, he once stated that those who can make you believe absurdities, can make you commit crimes or atrocities. Make you do something. So for that reason, greatest Kabbalists despise the concept of belief. They want you to know. And the only way to know is to test a principle. Test a principle. Apply it in a practical world. If it works, you won't have to believe it. You now know. So faith should be fact-based faith. It's a fact. It's not an assumption. We went to Israel. My facts are. So like I've said, we'll be using idioms, we'll be using codes to decipher as paraphernalia or tools to understand biblical concepts from the Hebrew ontological viewpoint. So our topic today is cooking a young goat. And actually, through the Hebrew Bible, there are hundreds of cultural idioms that through translation from Greek into English have lost their concrete, colorful meanings. Aramaic, Hebrew, the Greek, so most scripture was originally written in Hebrew, as you know, in the Aramaic languages. For hundreds of years, Hebrew idioms have been literally translated into English from Hebrew to Greek, then English. So ancient manuscripts has been altered to fit the current society. Now, when we read the scriptures, we read the work of translators and scholars who have been transformed these ancient documents into a readable language, into a readable local language. But the meaning is lost. It's now meaningless. Because lack of Hebrew and Hebrew language and Hebrew culture, tell me some sort of Singapore video. So I'll give an example. For the benefit of that, I just want us to see some of the idioms from Kantakuta Redi, Rakunzi, and I for an eye. People disparage, people disregard the Torah because they think because it was written in idioms. So the interpretation of a local person using his local understanding, local language, no person knows the Torah. In every area, it's not about that. For example, if you read Genesis chapter 31 verse 3, it says, the way of women. It's an idiom. The way of women. It's an idiom. It's not about menstruation. The woman is on menstrual cycle. The way of women. That's the Torah. Again, if you read the Genesis chapter 40 verse 18, it says, lift up your head. Lift up your head. It's an idiom. It means restore to honor. You understand? Agawanda, even Deuteronomy 20:8, it says, the heart melt, my heart melt. My heart melt. This is Deuteronomy 20 verse, chapter 20 verse 8. It means lose courage. No. I can give more examples, but Agawanda, 1 Samuel 24:3, he covered his feet. He covered his feet. He relieved himself. He covered his feet. The Torah is idiomatic. Those are not idiomatic. In language yao chingotoro. Kana kurumusha. Inazona chicha chingotoro manje. Tidre chidzisi chichi usakuro eminyi chichi auchawi. Wototi pewe nezo. What I've seen is. So there's so many examples like my eye is consumed. Psalms 6 verse 7. My eye has been consumed, meaning vision is bled. My eye has been consumed. Correct, vision has been bled. Another example, Psalm 73:9. Tongues thrust through the earth arrogant ordering. So there are so many, we can waste your time, but these are just idioms. So I'm saying the Bible, the Torah is idiomatic. It was written in a language, a Hebrew, called the Lashon HaChodesh. Lashon HaChodesh is the holy tongue. We don't understand it. The reason why we got there, we want to understand the Torah from their own perspective, from their own cultural viewpoint, from their own ontological viewpoint. Vaimboona sei iwo. Izvi munhu akandibvunza kuno kuti, what is your name? Kundimupindura ndinofanira kudzokera kugokwe, ndomupindura ndiri ndomaona ndireita. So our question, our topic today is kubika mbudzi anomukaka wamai, cooking a young goat in its mother's milk. So from the Midrashi, I said we are going to use the Midrashic interpretation or Midrashic literature. Children's Midrashi, these are books that were written by Jewish rabbis of antiquity. They were written to close. They are called gap fillers. They fill some gaps in the Bible. Gaps no language, that language that we don't have, that we don't understand. So that's the whole purpose of these studies. Not to honk in here in America, to honk my own trumpet, to study, to understand. What is wrong with that? So according to that Midrash now, food is a metaphor. Food can be an idiom. That's why my idioms by food could become good. So the Midrash is saying food is a metaphor for knowledge. Where you see in the Torah where it says food is knowledge. It's knowledge. And specifically, each type of food represents a certain type of knowledge. Sometimes the Tanakh, which is from Genesis to Malach, knows the Tanakh now. The Torah, 5 books, the Tanakh, the whole Tanakh, the whole Bible from Genesis to Malach, knows the Tanakh. It includes now prophets and Nevi'im. The prophets are Nevi'im and the Pentateuch or the Chumash. So food, according to the Midrashi, is knowledge. So in the Torah, there's a commandment now, forbidding the Israelites from cooking a young goat in his mother's milk. And truly speaking, my purpose here is simply to analyze the law, to analyze that statement in the Torah. Remember, we're living in a Y generation. Y generation. Kids have so many questions, so many unanswered questions. Indeed, the Torah has all the answers. You can't force them to believe a bit. And it is in the Torah and the Bible. Most of this to teach is to provide with the food, to provide with knowledge, to answer those questions. That's the main purpose of these studies. Not to fight anyone, just to bring knowledge closer home. So basically, in this statement, don't cook a young goat in its mother's milk. There are 4 important elements. We have milk. 1, we have cooking. We have a goat. In that statement, we have a mother. So milk, cooking, goat, and mother. I'll repeat it. So, okay. The first element here is milk. In the previous presentations, we discussed about the Hebrew word for field. Field, we said field in a earth, and a female breast in the Shaddai. So, and all these words are related to a word spirit. So thus, in Hebrew, according to using the Midrashi, a woman's breast produces milk. So we can easily say field produces a type of spiritual knowledge. Because we are saying a field is the same as a female breast. So we deriving is from these idioms, we can derive that a woman's breast produces milk. So we can easily say a field produces a type of spiritual knowledge associated with milk. So munda uya unoproduce makaka, uya associate unoproduce the breast produces milk associated with knowledge. So I think it's easy. There's a verse that says, we have. It's not a verse. It's workaholic. It's well known that at the university people say, "What is your field of study?" Field. Field of study. Field means earth, and field means the woman's breast. So, and the other verse says, "A land of milk and honey." Land of milk. Land of milk, and we went there. Milk. Milk ni honey. But land inoburitsa mukaka uchitumbuka atina nazvona izvozvo. So yet these are just idioms for religious people to understand. So in regards to that milk produced by a field, produced by a breast, we all can say surely that this is a spiritual teaching. So milk is a spiritual teaching, is a religious teaching, because of the common root already mentioned. So in addition to this, we can also say that milk of a woman's breast is very tasty, very sweet, very easy to drink, very easy to digest. So what does it mean? So what this then suggests is that milk represents a spiritual knowledge which is agreeable to any person, to any rank and file, to the listener, and is not too difficult to understand. So milk is that level of knowledge, not difficult to understand. And yet the second part of the commandment is to do with cooking. Basically, there are two main stories in the Torah about cooking, but of the three important ones, when we cook, we use spices. So the first reference we already discussed in those different articles, and we have noted in those articles that Potiphar, Joseph, the man who bought Joseph, Hatzadik, the righteous, when Joseph arrived in Egypt, the Torah, the Midrash says, described Joseph as working for Potiphar, and yet Potiphar was a chef, a cook, and not captain of the guards, as written in the English, translations. Potiphar was not the captain of the guards. Angari cook on the Torah. So the captain is the Jewish version. It. So we also examined that Joseph, when he arrived in Mitzrayim in Egypt, he was bought by Pharaoh, and so he was working for Pharaoh. He was working for Potiphar. And later on, he married Esnat. And we said in the previous studies, Esnat, mukazi azonokwana Joseph Peter uyo ainzi Esnat uyo. Esnat, let me just take you back a little bit. Esnat, the story of Shechem. Shechem achirepa Dinah. When Shechem raped Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, previously, Dinah got pregnant and gave birth to a child called Esnat. When she was raped by Shechem, Dinah got pregnant and gave birth to a child called Esnat. So because in Judaism, a mamza, a child who is born out of that relationship, she's not allowed to be part and parcel of the Judaism, the Judaic people or Judaism. So Yaakov took the child, threw the child in the woods, and an angel of God, Gabriel, took the child to Mitzrayim, to Egypt. That child was bought by Potiphar's wife called Zuleika. When Zuleika bought that child, the Esnat, na Gabriel angel. That Esnat was the then wife of Joseph, Manj. I just wanted to clear the dust there. So that's the story. The story of Joseph. But we need to delve deeper into our studies. Milk, the land of milk. The answer, to answer the first question, we must examine other stories about gods. So we spoke about milk, we spoke about the field, but need to also look and other stories about the gods. One of the most important story in the Torah about the gods is the betrayal of Joseph. Joseph, the righteous by his brothers, when he was sold into slavery. And what is not appreciated is the brothers, is that, you know, for their brothers to convince their father, to kill a goat, to slaughter a goat, and took God's blood, put the God's blood on as deception, and put the blood on Joseph's clothes. We know another story again about gods from Judah, you know, Judah, again the son of Jacob. You know that story with that prostitute, with the Tamar. I don't have details, but you know it. But in all these stories, we see gods being used. And finally, in the story of Rebecca convincing Jacob to steal Esau's blessing, the entire narrative, you know it, is based on deception. And the God has been double functioning in this issue. First, the goat is cooked in a special manner using spices to make Isaac think that it was a type of meat caught in the fields. In the fields, again, we should emphasize that here the word field shown is a metaphor, is an idiom, you see, for knowledge. So again, we have a story, second issue, the story, you know, that the goat's hair was placed on Jacob's arms, mafudza ake, and Esau here described as a man covered with hair, with thick hair, zembudzio. Thus, in these opinions, these two elements are reflected in the above question. One would ask why Rivka requested 2 goats and not 1. Say Rebecca got not mbiri. So Jacob's second son is named Simeon. That's somewhere hidden, and his name means to hear. This suggests that Simeon is always willing to consider or to listen. 2 sides of the story here. To accept, to listen is to accept an alternative view. This is why we have to believe that we have to believe that Esau was a mighty hunter. It means to say he was looking after information, hunting for more information. So this combined with chasing after meat suggests that Esau was intellectually curious and was interested in other people's cultures and religions. Thus Esau was a man with red hair, which is described as being similar to goat's hair. You understand? So in Hebrew now, the word red also means man or ground or Adamah. Thus Esau is a man of the earth and not a spiritual man. So so meaning to say, Esau Zunzake, he was very much devoted to academic lifestyle based on teachings of men, teachings of philosophies, not concerned about the knowledge of God. So the fourth element, according to my list there, is mothers. So a mother is a metaphor for spiritual medium. The mother is a metaphor or an idiom for spiritual medium. Meaning what? Eve was made from the bone of Adam's rib. Eva akabereka pa bone ra Adam. And the Hebrew word for bone shares the same 2-letter root with the word advisor. So the word rib do not share the same word with the word, from the Hebrew perspective, the same word, that my idioms are, the same word advisor. So Eve was advisor to Adam Arishon. Even the rib bones produced blood. We already mentioned that God told Noah that the soul is in the blood. So this is how it is written. So this is clearly a metaphor, an idiom, because Eve is not the mother of Adam. Eve knows the Bible, but Asma because Asma Adam. And the word The name for Eve means alive. And even in modern times, there is a connection with a person's ability to understand life. So we say a person is brain dead, is an idiom. So thus, a mother is a metaphor for a source of spiritual understanding. In other words, a mother is a spiritual intermediary. So then what are we saying? So then, when we combine our interpretations for milk, cooking, goat, and mother, what do they tell us about meaning of the commandment? And how is it related to cooking a goat in its mother's milk? If meat does indeed represent a type of preaching, then God's meat represents a deceptive sermon. So all in all, what the Torah is teaching us that milk is soft. Milk is easy to drink. Meat is a bit tough because you have to chew, you have to masticate the bones. So what it means is many people today, they don't want to delve deeper, to study deeper, to eat the bones. That's why Paul says in the Bible, Paul rachiti, tinokupai mukaka uyu. Kuti amusati makuru amugoni kudla mabonzo. Kuti mabonzo ariko, mabonzo. Mabonzo, these are the commentaries, the Midrashic commentaries, the Kabbalah. These are books that I used to decode. These are books that I used to decipher. Kuinda pasi. You know why we are poor at home in Africa? I come from Africa. It is because we have an endowment of resources. We have resources. We have all the resources. But we are limited in terms of sophisticated machinery to mine the resources. We don't have sophisticated machinery, but we have the resources. So, why? Because the resources are hidden down in the earth. You have to dig deeper into the earth and find them. And then we can feed our nation. But we don't have those. We wait for people from, far away areas to bring us sophisticated machinery to mine our minerals. The same applies with the word of God. It's not easy when God, the same person who, remember the Bible created the universe. When God is hiding those minerals away from our sight, does he hate us? He wants us to think. The same applies with the Bible. The same applies with the Torah. So some people are being fed with milk only, but the Bible is saying, don't cook a young goat with her or his mother's milk. Meaning to say, the milk is simple. You can drink it. Don't have to. It's easily digestible. So and a young goat doesn't have bones. It has cartilage. It's easier. And yet the soul of a human being is grown by eating meat, by eating bones, by chewing bones. That's how the soul inside a human being is grown. That's what the Bible says. Whenever you are eating meat or beef, you must eat it with bitter herbs. Because bitterness, there's some mystical, interpretation in bitter herbs to strengthen the soul. So many a time people are inclined to easy to swallow type of preaching, easy to swallow knowledge. But God is saying, never cook, never. You need to delve deeper into the studies and find that understanding that we are here in this universe for close to 100 years to learn. So don't cook a young goat in his mother's milk. Meaning to say, don't rely on top of the surface knowledge. You have to delve deeper where there are mineral resources, deeper into the study, in the more physics, discontinuity. My geography, when I was doing Form 3. Delve deeper. Everything is hidden deeper. So those, if you dig deeper now, that will build your soul. That will resuscitate you. So that's the meaning of that verse. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. May God bless you. Amen, amen, and amen.